What's the hardest thing about writing? Well, it's getting started. Maybe you're having a hard time coming up with a story idea, or you're stuck on where to take your story next. If you want a way into a story or a way through, I have 9 story starters to help you. This free PDF is full of story seeds and prompts to get you going. To download your 9 story starters, go to nancypanuccio.com/start. That's Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/start. And I know many of you go back and listen to past episodes, and sometimes you ask, can you do an episode on this topic? Or point me towards episodes on this topic. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. At the time of this recording, Writer Unleashed has surpassed 100 episodes. So I did a retrospective. I went back into my archives and I pulled out some of my most downloaded episodes. Episodes on plot, episodes on character, showing versus telling, and just how to stay motivated. I curated 5 of the most popular episodes so you can listen to ones you may have missed, or there may be some you want to listen to again. The thing with podcasting is it's random. Some of my episodes do build on the previous weeks, but generally it's not as structured as, say, a course that focuses on one aspect of writing in depth. And I know many of you go back and listen to past episodes, and sometimes you ask, can you do an episode on this topic? Or point me towards episodes on this topic. So with these, you can pick and choose which episodes feel like, yeah, that episode can really help me with this aspect of craft right now. Or you can listen again if you really want it to sink in. I'm going to give you a brief excerpt of each of these episodes, and I'll tell you why I chose it. I'll also link to these 5 in the show notes so that you can access them easily. Think of this as your end of summer playlist. Okay, so here we go. So the first episode I want to share with you is episode 37, 3 questions to ask before you plot your story. Now, plot is one of the hardest things to teach because it's multidimensional. There are so many elements that go into plot. And the thing with plot is that it's so deeply intertwined with every other element. So in this episode, I give you 3 things to explore before you start building your plot or as you're building your plot. You know, many writers think plot is the first requirement of any story, and you do need structure. Absolutely. Even if you're a pantser, at some point, you're going to have to structure your story. But there are some foundational underlying structures to build first or build as you plot your story. It helps to get these foundational questions answered first. So this is what gives your story the pulse and the feeling that it's alive. So here we go. Here's an excerpt. Now, the purpose of plot is to show your characters emotional patterns, their emotional footprints. It's there to dramatize the internal journey. So once you know who your main character is, what your character wants, and why they want it, and even how they're getting in their own way of getting what they want,
The plot can be anything you like. In other words, the plot serves the character, not the other way around.
So that's episode 37, 3 questions to ask before you plot your story. Okay, next up, episode 22, 3 ways to avoid character stereotype. So a common question that makes it into my inbox is, how do I make my characters feel more real, more believable? How do I stop them from being this cliche? Now, this is particularly challenging when we're writing a villain or a bad guy. So in this episode, I explore ways to go beyond stereotype, whether it's the good guy or the bad guy, whether it's the hero or the villain. So have a listen.
Start with the premise that most people are basically good. They're just flawed. Sometimes they're flawed fatally. Even the best of us are imperfect. Sometimes we're misguided or disillusioned. And the most troublesome people, if you spend enough time with them, they'll start to reveal traits that you can identify with, admire, even root for. The truth is, good people do bad things and bad people do good things. In our weakest moments, all of us are capable of making bad choices, even immoral choices. People who do things beyond our ken, yes, even our villains, are operating from some level of pain, of deep pain. So when exploring your villain, start there. Start where the pain is.
Next up is episode 81, story details, what to leave in, what to leave out. Now, often writers clutter their scenes with details and objects to give the sense of a setting or of the world of the character. But telling us something like the photo James pauses in front of in his hallway is 4x4, or that Tina is catching the 8:07 train to make it to her job at Condé Nast, gives us a pedigree of reality, but it's often extraneous. So the question we're always asking is what to leave in, what to leave out. So in this episode, I'm giving you a way to select what's significant and what's relevant to the story you're telling. And the best part is you already know how to do this. You just have to get back in touch with what you already know about selecting significant, relevant details. So here's an excerpt. Our emotions continually shape how we view the outside world and the objects inside it. What we see is constantly transmuting. It's always corresponding to our shifting interior state. So there's an inner life to objects. Charles Baxter once said, when we look at things, things look back. When we look at things, things look back. So if we're truly aware, life presents us with metaphors, objects that are emotionally significant. That is, they have this emotional charge that represents a larger and more complex emotional truth. Okay, on to episode 90. 4 ways to master show, don't tell. Show, don't tell still eludes many writers. It's not that clear what we mean by show versus tell. And the thing is, you can't show or tell arbitrarily. Sometimes it's better to tell, sometimes it's better to show. In this episode, I'm tackling some of the biggest misconceptions about what we mean by showing and the major misstep most writers make. And I'm going to give you techniques that will help you show the things that matter. Have a listen. Sometimes when something's too told, a character will do something or make a decision, and we have no context for it. So it'll come out of left field. So another way to show is to show us the thought process of your protagonist. Now, writers are often afraid to show their protagonist's thoughts because they think it's a form of telling. But thought is action. Thought is action. It's not a form of telling. It gives what your character does or what they feel context. It helps your reader understand what motivates a character through the story. So, if Frank accepts the job promotion at the end of the novel instead of moving to Paris to start a new life, we need to have seen that thought process over time that led to his decision. And last but not least, episode 29, how to reignite your motivation to write. Now, how often do we say, I'm just not motivated today? But here's the secret. Motivation is not a prerequisite. It's a result. It's an action. Motivation comes from engagement. So in this episode, I'm sharing the brain science behind motivation, and I'm giving you some of the things that actually demotivate us, some of the thoughts that demotivate us, so that you can turn it around. Have a listen.
Now, getting published is the end game, of course, but while we're writing and while we're in the middle of our story, we should be focused on what the work needs without any thoughts of publication. If you focus on the writing itself, publishing will be more likely to follow in due time. But here's why premature fixation on publishing can demotivate you. Social scientists have done countless studies on human motivation, and they've done experiments with kids, with monkeys, and with adults. And they found that we all have three main drives. The first is biological, so food, sex, and sleep. The second drive is for reward. So, for example, if we study harder, we'll get an A in math. If we work longer hours, we'll make more money. You get the idea. So these do work in the short term, and our performance may improve in the short term. But what happens when we're focused on the external reward, like the published book, we diminish the third drive, which is our internal motivation, which is simply the joy of doing the work for the sheer pleasure of doing it. Now, publishing is the external motivation, but to stay motivated, we need to keep in touch with why we're driven to write in the first place. Now, for some of us, it's to heal or to rise above a painful situation. For others, we just love to entertain. And for others, we just love the process of crystallizing a thought, an idea, or an image, or we love to explore humanity. We're fascinated by what it means to be human. So we all have our why. So think about why you're driven to write. What's the internal impetus?
So there you have it, your end of summer playlist. I hope these episodes move your story forward or give you some clarity on a certain technique you may have been struggling with, or just motivates you to keep going. Staying the distance with our work is really hard at times. Writing can feel like a camel walk. Sometimes you're asking, why am I doing this? But if you're listening to this podcast, I know you're still in the game, and I'm here to give you the tools and the inspiration to keep going the distance. My hope with this collection of episodes is that you learn something different, or you listen again so that it can really sink in, so that you can move the needle forward on your story. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Writer Unleashed. If this episode resonated with you, please go leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews are key to keeping Writer Unleashed on the top of the charts where other writers can find us. I'll see you next week with a brand new episode. In the meantime, join us on our private Facebook group, Writer Unleashed Community. It's totally free to join. And if you want more free resources plus writing tips I only share in email, sign up over at nancypanuccio.com. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Till then, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.